Welcome back. We're grateful that you're here. If you can, like, subscribe, share, and comment on the videos. I'm very, very happy to have Andrew Olsen here with me, friend of mine who I've known for a while, a friend of my daughter's, part of the Catholic group that's down near Rutgers. So I'll give him a few minutes to introduce himself, and then we'll talk about what we're going to discuss during this episode. Tell me about you.
Yeah. Grew up Staten Island, not too far from
Not going to hold that against you.
Yep. You get that a lot. You got to do what you can. But anyway, I went to Rutgers. I started as a physics major, ended as a planning and public policy major.
Okay.
In my life, I believe I started with a P, ended with a P, so there's some consistency.
Okay.
There.
Yeah.
Minor in philosophy as well, so another P.
3 Ps. That's pretty good. Yeah.
So there's consistency. But after I graduated, I was looking at law school. Everyone was telling me, like, you got to really want it. I was like, I don't think I want it that much. So I ended up deciding to do a gap year and serve with St. Paul's Outreach. They're a Christian organization. They serve at different college campuses, just help out with campus ministries. So I did that.
Where were you with them?
I was down at University of Central Florida.
Okay, gotcha.
So Orlando, Florida, 3 years. And then this previous year, I discerned with the Brotherhood of Hope. Did a year with them, discerned out. Ended up back here in Jersey, and I'm back working for Rutgers. So it's a little bit of a full circle thing.
But now you're actually living in New Jersey as opposed to Staten Island. Mm-hmm. So now we'll give you a pass because you're in Jersey.
Yep.
And then I know you were considering the Brotherhood. We had Brother Ken here a couple of weeks ago, so he and I were able to talk about suffering. What was appealing to you about even the Brotherhood at that point? Like what made you look at that?
Good question. Yeah, I think I had never met a brother in my life until college.
A lot of people haven't. Yep. We see priests, we see nuns, but not necessarily a brother.
Yep. They're definitely more of the low-key side of things, but this is great. I have this great picture of, it's me as a freshman meeting one of the brothers for the first time. Okay. And it's it's my first year on campus. And I think I was just impressed by their character, by these men's character. They're men I looked up to. I think just looking at my life, mentorship is something I really desire. It's actually part of our friendship, Rob, is just the way that you've been a mentor to me. I think there's just a lot of ways you don't see that as much. And I think when I saw that in them, I was like, hey, I'll talk to you because I don't know what I'm doing. Right. I want to know what I'm doing. Right. And these guys were older. They could kind of teach me. And that was something I was really looking for. And I'm so grateful for that year I spent with them. Yeah. No regrets at all. Even if I didn't continue with them. Sure. It's just the year that I spent.
Sure, it's a great opportunity to be able to live with them, to learn, to grow, and to find out where you should be, which brought you back then to New Jersey.
Yep.
And I know the thing that you and I are going to be talking about today is basically conflict, being able to resolve conflicts. And I've shared with people before that I don't really like to watch anything with politics or follow any politics because it just plain aggravates me because I think that is the poster child for never being able to resolve conflict. People have two very different viewpoints. And in the past, because I'm a little bit older than you, in the past, people were able to they would say, reach across the aisle and find that common ground. That doesn't happen anymore. And that's like in the big picture. That's what we see out in the world. But like you and I were talking before a little bit, we see that like one-on-one. Yep. We see that with our friends. We see that with our colleagues. And I know you were telling me a story that, just about that, which I think is a real good way to lead into this.
Yeah. So it's last summer, and I'm visiting a friend in D.C. We're just at this piano bar. I just ordered this drink, the Billy Joel. Wasn't very good.
Well, that's appropriate at a piano bar, though. Yeah.
It was a little disappointing, but anyway, the sidetrack. But it's just it was my high school friends. I've known them for like 10 years at this point, and we were just talking. And at some point, we just in the conversation get to just like where we're at with like different belief things, different just even thoughts about life. Hey, what's the point of this whole thing? And like I had my thoughts. I was sharing a little bit, and then a couple of my friends like were just opening up, and it was cool. Like I could tell like my life was starting to go this way. Their lives some of them were like starting to go that way. But it was, even hard to hear, in some aspects of like, oh, I want them to think what I think. But actually knowing, what they believe and everything was like better than not knowing.
Right.
You know, I think sometimes we just stay up here and it's like, well, let's just talk about the latest Marvel movie because we could at least like agree.
It's something
on
you
that.
could agree on, and there's probably going to be little conflict other than a lighthearted disagreement.
Right.
Yeah.
Who's your favorite character?
Right.
That type of thing. This was like, you know, hey, what's the meaning of life? Is there an afterlife?
Right.
You know, like those types of things. And there was some real disagreement. But I remember, like, I mean, days after, just thinking that was so good. Like, there was something so good about, like, just getting that out in the open of just, like, I actually know what my friends think, or, like, I actually know what they care about. And even if it is, like, I disagree with them, I do. Yeah, I disagree with them about, like, some of those things. Actually getting there is just, I found was better than staying up here. And, yeah, I think in just this, our talking through it is, like, how do we get there more?
Yeah.
Like, how in our conversations, how do we, as a society, get there, get to that place of disagreement, but actually still be able to respect each other?
Absolutely, because that's, I think, what's missing. One, I think it's very clear people are afraid of that disagreement or afraid of that conflict. Well, I'll amend that a little bit. Sure. They're afraid of one-on-one like this disagreement and conflict. Mm-hmm. People are very willing, I think, to be on social media.
Sure.
And because they don't, there's no consequence. I can say whatever I want to say to you on Facebook. We can have the biggest Facebook argument ever, and there's no weight to it. As opposed to when you were talking with your friends, there was a weight to it. Where when you guys are talking about the disagreement, there's a risk that you guys might not be friends anymore if this is a big enough disagreement. And it's funny because your side of it was, this was great. You were happy that you were able to kind of talk this through, right? And I was married 28 years, and disagreements were a part of life for 28 years. Not in big ways. She and I had a really good relationship. But there's always a risk when it comes to a disagreement. There's something that you have to put out there, whether it's you're challenging a belief, there's a level of vulnerability, I'm opening up something, and if I do this, somebody may not like me now, or somebody may think differently of me. Right. And I agree with you. I think that, that whole thing is very interesting. What do you think? I mean, with those friends, how do you think they took it all?
Sure. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, I think it's funny. I didn't talk too much. Like, we went there and then kind of we're back to just hanging out and everything. And I would think if I were to ask them, they'd say, it was good. It was good. Yeah. It wasn't like we got into this topic and then we were just like, all right, now I'm gonna not look at you,
right?
Or that type of thing. We were able to keep it at a level of just still be able to talk to each other and still relate. And we've seen each other several times afterwards. And
you don't think it, from your perspective, you don't think it hurt the relationship?
No. I think it clarified. I think it brought clarity because it was there. I mean, we had our beliefs about these different things this whole time. It was right.
It wasn't that those didn't exist. Yeah. They were already there. You just never voiced them.
Exactly. Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And you found it to be valuable to voice it. Mm-hmm. And as a matter of fact, you might actually respect your friends more because they were able to be open with you and share where you guys disagree.
Sure. Yeah. And it just kind of opens up this new avenue of relating. Right. Because it just gets. Hey, for myself, it gets tiring just staying up here. Of just what's the next kind of, oh, do you like this brand or that brand? And I can only do that for so long of just kind of staying up here of the surface level things. I think it's, the things worth talking about. I feel like our politics, our religion, are those deeper questions. Yeah. And those are the things that we've said, family holidays, don't talk about.
Right. Yeah. Right. Keep the peace. Let's just keep the peace, which is the idea. But what I find is interesting, you had said this too, and I think the same thing. It's actually tiring to kind of circle up here. Mm-hmm. After a while, you're kind of like, okay, this is nice. Especially if you're trying to get deeper relationships. Mm-hmm. Because you can only circle up here above the clouds for so long. Sure. Because then there's no depth to anything. There's no risk that comes with that, And I find, it's interesting that I have a group of men that I meet with, and one of the things that we did when we first started to sit down and meet is we decided to go deep. Mm-hmm. So we decided to instead of circling up here, and this is sharing about spiritual things. We're reading through some books and we're working through some things. But I think it's the same idea. We could have met and circled up here, and it would have been a nice time and we would have laughed a lot. But it meant so much more that we were down here. And so many times these guys will say, this was a great use of our time. Oh my gosh, I can't wait to come back and meet this way. So, what has more weight to it? Here or here? Right. Where are we investing our time? And I think there's so many people out there that are so afraid to bridge that gap somehow, right? Somebody's not going to like me. There's going to be a problem, or I don't like conflict, right. And those very same guys I mentioned to you before, those very same guys said, people your age, because I'm a little bit older than you, I'm almost 30 years older than you. People your age don't like to pick up the phone and make a phone call. And we kind of walked through that. But do you find that with your friends? That everybody would rather do it by email or text or through like Snapchat or things like that?
Yep. Yeah, it's funny. I mean, just so on topic and on point of just, I'm looking at grad school. I'm like considering it, and I have to get some recommendations. And it's people I haven't talked to in a while, and I'm like, okay, like this morning, I was thinking about it this morning. It's like okay, I could like call, but would it be weird? Like they haven't heard from me in a while, and like I'll like make small talk, and then I'll just like transition to. But I was really calling about this,
right?
So I'll just text. Yeah, I like made this decision in my head, and I think it's some of that like awkward. We hate awkward, Gen Z and below, and like I don't know. I think it's kind of. You could write a whole book on that.
Well, but it's interesting because I think the awkward ties to the whole conflict resolution thing. Right? Because if you and I were having a conversation and all of a sudden we got heated, that becomes awkward. That becomes uncomfortable.
Yep.
And we don't know what to do with that. I mean, I grew up in a way that we didn't really resolve conflicts. So when it's funny, I got through college because I went to Rutgers as well. So Rutgers alum, mechanical engineering. But when I went to college and then got out, I remember sitting at my desk at my first job having to make a phone call, panicking because I had no idea how to do it. Because I never learned how to just pick up the phone, how to do exactly what we said, a little bit of small talk, or how do you get into the information that you're looking for, right? So here's my Rob kind of piece of advice if you're thinking about that.
Sure.
It's okay to send an email, but then don't just leave it there. Send an email or send a text, and then say, would you have some time to talk?
Call. Like ask for a phone call.
Because that I think can take out some of the awkwardness, But it sounds like you are better about making phone calls than maybe even some of your friends are.
Sure, yeah. Yeah, I think, part of it was just the roles I was put in with my job with, like, the campus ministry work. You just had to.
Right.
For part of it. I think it's a thing where I like, notice this in myself. I notice I want to be well-liked, right? I think that's one of the things. I think there's the, like, I want to be well-liked versus the I want depth. I want to actually state my opinion. And these are like constantly warring with each other but if they don't like me, if I say this, they won't like me. There's always that fear. There's always that. And I think that I've tried to find times where I see that in myself of I just want to be well liked here. And I've had, again, mentors, older men say like, Andrew, you need to grow in being righteously angry. Right. You need to grow in stating your opinion. So I think that's that's what's helped me is people have pointed it out. Because I think, naturally, it's the, like, be well-liked, be the, hey, we could get along with everybody, have no enemies or, have no, disagreements. And there's just that temptation to go there.
And being a people pleaser is actually very tiring because I did that for a number of years. Exactly that. I want to be well-liked. And I think the thing that I figured out, I don't think we should worry about being well-liked, but I think we should worry about being respected.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
I was having a discussion with a young woman who was talking just a little bit about her family situation, which is a little bit challenging.
Sure. And
I said to her that in certain cases, I think she needs to lay down some boundaries with her family.
Right.
Because it's just the kind of thing where, things just happen and she's expected to do certain things or act certain ways. And she was a little bit concerned, well, how do I do that and what do I do? And I said, in the back of their mind, they're going to have a grudging respect for you because you're drawing a line and you're showing a boundary. And honestly, I would rather have people's respect than have people be happy with me. Because having people respect me, they may not necessarily like me, but if they respect me, that means they're going to hopefully trust what I say. They're going to believe me, right? When they're happy with me, well, happy is just,
Sure.
I'm happy that I had a piece of cake. I'm happy that I had a nice night's sleep, right? But then if I respect somebody's position, that's definitely a different level of depth, and that might not mean that you're fully well liked.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things. Yeah, that even in myself, it's right. I'm drawn to that person who they're not 5 different people, or they're not you're like just like the partier with the partiers. You're
Right.
the like quiet guy with the quiet people, and there's there's like different aspects of that. But I think where it's like, okay, this person has convictions, and they have they have principles that they live by, and I think it brings up the question for me of, right, where we're both like involved in our Catholic faith. We have like this community
Sure.
that we're a part of, but actually, right, you work with people who you have a lot less common ground on, or like you just come across, and you even have friends that you have a lot less common ground on. I mean, you just in your life and your experience, where have you seen the whole, right? Maybe conflicts comes up more there, or maybe just trying to people please comes up more there. Like just in your relationships with people where the common ground isn't as easy to find.
Right.
How have you dealt with that?
Yeah. No. That's a good question too. Where, it is. I mean, if we're starting to talk with somebody who is the biggest basic common ground we have is trying to live your Catholic faith, trying to grow there.
Yep.
As long as you've got that, that's already the basis for good common ground,
Sure.
right? And I think the thing for me as I'm talking to people, your age, around your age, I'm finding that, some of the common ground, believe it or not, is my experience that I can share. As they're talking about going through job situations, dating situations, I can relate, at least in some way, to some of the things that they went through. And I think that's where it's interesting, though. We're talking about conflict, but now we're looking for common ground, right? So I think I think that's the answer to some of the conflict situation, is that we're all so interested, especially turn on the news, everybody's going to tell you why they're wrong and I'm right. But isn't it more important for us to find those levels of common ground? Because like talking to somebody your age, I was 36 years since I dated, but it doesn't seem like it was that long ago. So I can share about dating relationships or jobs or living situations. As these young couples are getting married, I can share and at least share some experience about raising children, conflicts in marriage, things like that. And they're not exactly the same, but what's also interesting is I think we're identifying this as well, is I think people who don't have a deeper relationship are probably okay with butting heads and conflict. And I think the deeper you have that relationship, and that's because you were talking about that with your friends
Sure.
and getting closer with people, when there's more weight to the relationship, it's scarier. I mean, would you agree with that? I mean,
Yeah, right. Because if you don't know the person, right? Yeah, it is easy to just say, well, it's like, how often am I going to see them? I won't have to deal with it so often.
Right.
Or like,
right. There's no real consequence for them.
Sure.
With the guy in McDonald's, if I happen to yell at that guy in McDonald's,
Right.
But as a person I see all the time.
Cool.
So yeah, if there's any kid that I had a struggle with or a fight with, it was my son Justin. He and I definitely had a lot of going back and forth.
Did you see a lot of yourself at his age where you're like, that's me, I'm dealing with myself?
Yeah. Well, if you become a father at some point,
Sure.
which would be great, you love it when you see things in your children and you go, oh, they got that from me, isn't that great? And you hate it when you see things in your children and you go, crap, they got that from me.
Yep.
And definitely there were some things that I think was where we rubbed each other wrong, and where we just did not see eye to eye. But the best thing now is we have such a good relationship because we didn't shy away from the conflict. And that's what I was thinking about your story with your friends, and I'm sure you have other ones like it, where you feel like that probably strengthened your relationship, right?
Yeah, I think, yep. It's it's one of those things like hard in the moment, but I could even see, like, even if I think ahead, right? If I like take the long picture, it's like, this is going to be worth it. It's like, okay, this is hard in the moment, but going to be worth it.
Yeah.
And so it's a choice. It's one of those like, okay, I have to choose this because sometimes it might seem easier in the moment to just like, well, let's just keep talking about Marvel. Like Thanos, come on, like, what's that guy's deal? Yeah, it's like we could keep circling there, or it was like, okay, like let me, and sometimes I find myself like, okay, you could feel the shift sometimes in the conversation. And it could be like abort mission, like let's get out of here.
And sometimes we have to realize it's not worth it to get into something.
Sure.
If things are getting so heated or we've pushed onto a spot that we shouldn't be, we might have to, out of respect, go, you know what, maybe this isn't a place we can go right now, right? Yep. I'll ask you a question too, because I could discuss this. How important is it for you to be right?
Pretty important.
Yeah.
Yep. And I think, the more you're going, it's like the more I think they're off base, it's like, oh, I just got to get them on the right path. It's my job in this situation. It's like, all right, here we go.
Right.
Right. Let's get them to think exactly as I think. Let's get another Andrew. Yeah.
Right.
And then, it's like, why do I, and then it could be about stupid things.
Oh, yeah.
About stupid things. Me and my roommates, this is a funny story. We don't share, I live with 3 other guys. Just we're kind of in similar situations where like we're out of college, just like starting jobs before we get married or like move on, move out. And we buy most of our own groceries.
Okay.
But eggs, we share.
That can be contentious.
It has been contentious. I've bought it quite a few times for the house.
Okay.
And it was running low one time. I was like, you know what? I'm going to let the other guys buy it. And I think one of the guys opened the fridge and he's like, oh, there's like one egg left. He like eats it. And then like someone brings up, oh, we should buy eggs. And then like I said, like, guys, I didn't buy eggs out of spite. Yeah. Because I want someone else to buy the eggs.
Right.
So now for the past week, everyone's been waiting to see who will crack first. But
I'm cheating.
Yeah.
So do you not have any eggs in your house?
We now have eggs, but
did you have to buy them?
I didn't buy them. But it was important for me to be right. Yeah, it was important for me to not have to buy the eggs. So it could be even little stupid things like that.
Wow. And I laugh at that.
It's justice. It's justice.
Well, and I laugh at that because sometimes we'll defend a ground, and just because we want to be right.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
And I mean, there are certain moral things that is very true. I've definitely though been in discussions where there have been some conversations going on around me, and I realized even though they were incorrect morally, it was not the time for me to engage in that, where I had to pick my battle for that. But I think what's interesting too, again, after having been married for 28 years, I don't know if I ever told you this story, but Karen and I, at one point, my son came up from Virginia, brought a married couple with him. And this was when Karen was bedridden, so about 3 or 4 months before she died. And we're sitting up in our bedroom, we're eating dinner, and the husband of the married couple looks at us and says, so, Mr. and Mrs. Lang, what's the secret to a good marriage? And I go, thank God I've got a fork full of food, because I have no idea what I'm going to say at this point, right? So I eat my food, and I'm thinking, and I'm praying, going, Lord, what is the secret to a good marriage? And my first answer, and the thing that I kind of came around to, and I'm summarizing, was that Karen is not my salvation, nor am I hers, right? So, because I think so many people believe that you get married and it all has to be, and then when they can't fulfill everything that you want, then, well, you weren't who I thought you were going to be. Well, you couldn't possibly be there. I thought Karen's answer was better because she had more time to think. So, because I answered first. She said, you know what? It's not about us being right or wrong in an argument. It's about us being unified. So when we would argue over different things, we wouldn't always see eye to eye, but the goal at the end of it was to come to some common ground for some level of unity. And that was the important piece. We might still disagree, but we at least gained in respect. Mm-hmm. Our relationship was better after that. And even like she would even say to me, well, are you okay with this? Like, let's say I lost in the argument. She'd say, are you okay with this? I said, give me a few minutes. If I said I am, I am. Mm-hmm. But I just need to adjust to whatever this new thing is going to be. But I thought that was great. Now, that's a marriage relationship, but isn't that in all of our other relationships, if they're going to be a deeper relationship?
Yep.
Right?
Yep. And
I don't know what your thoughts are on that as well.
Yeah. I think it's, the like getting to the common ground. Yeah, getting there. Like, okay, what do I have to let go of? What's the other person have to let go of?
Right.
Because I think the one thing I sometimes see is the Christian thing to do is just like get walked on, or just like, we just my work in campus ministry. It was, some of the students, we'd like invite them to live together in like a Christian household, and one of the questions on the interview, like for this, was like, let's say a guy takes your food and eats it. It was clearly marked yours. He eats it, and like,
oh, that's not acceptable. I'm just gonna say that right off the bat. Go ahead.
yeah, that's it. But a lot of the young guys would always say like, oh, I'd let him have it, and like I probably wouldn't say anything to him. I'd just like
right.
I'd offer it up, and like sometimes I think we like get into this spot where it's like the Christian thing to do is to just like always. Just constantly. Almost
be a doormat, not love people, but almost be like, just be rolled over.
Right.
Oh, this is what they did. That's okay.
But and then in getting to common ground, I think like it's hard to do that if the one person is just always like, no, but we'll just do what you want.
Right.
And I find that I'm doing that in myself. I do that, at times when I shouldn't be. But I think it's some of this teasing out of like, okay, what can I give away? And this was something I was thinking about, like, walking into this conversation was, like, there are things, though, where, like, moral is right, a lot of them, too, where it's, like, we can't get to a, like, let's call it even. I think sometimes we conflate the two of, like, and society, I think, wants to do that sometimes. They're just like, let's just, like, find a common ground here, or, like, find something. There's some things where you can't. There are some things where, you can't, and I think even for the relationship of, like, okay, we cannot find common ground here.
Correct.
Like actually realizing that.
But even that, then I think what we realize is the common ground is at least we're disagreeing.
Sure.
But we can at least respect each other.
Yeah.
Because I think that's something that we see is I think what then happens is because you disagree with me, I don't even respect you.
Yep.
I don't even treat you like a human being. And I think we've gone so far outside of the sphere of what us being humans and good people should be. Mm-hmm. And again, us being Catholics, that fits a different category entirely. But, it's like, well, you disagree, so you're not even, like, you're basically, I'm demonizing you, Mm-hmm. I think one thing I think we can end with, and I was thinking about this as we're talking, we had a friend who was, would always tell you the truth about everything. Mm. But they wondered why people had a problem with what they said is because they very rarely brought it out in some level of love. They would say it, but it wouldn't come across in any level of mercy or any level of understanding or anything like that. And I think, to me, that's it, as we're dealing with people, and I think as we're dealing, whether it's conflict or just regular relationships, it's, the two areas of truth and love. Mm-hmm. I'm just curious to know what your thoughts are on that, because obviously you had mentioned with the young guys too, they could be doormats, but on the other side, it's just we have to tell people, because I remember when I was a kid, when I was younger, a kind of a newly on fire Catholic, we just got to tell everybody, and well, okay, there's something somewhat right about that, but you're going to lose people, So I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah. I think it's. We want it to be simple. At least me. I want it to be simple. I want it to be like, oh, it's just the truth, and it's just, if we just all did the right things and just ABC, it's, easy. But it is that, right? It's the truth and love, and I love just hearing people's stories. I think that helps a lot of just like, oh wow, like actually like there's this like thing that they believe, or there's this thing that they think about, or like this direction they're taking their life, but when you actually start to hear like how did they get there, it's like, wow, there's like a lot that happened to get you here. Yeah, and just like pop out with this idea that, and maybe even initially I think like, man, that's so wrong-headed.
Right.
That's like so, like how could you possibly think about that? Then you just start to hear like this happened in my life and that happened and like, you know, and this person disappointed me and like how could I ever trust blah 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 blah, blah. Yeah, and you're like, wow, now I understand. It makes the loving piece easier of just like, this is another human being.
Right.
It's like, oh yeah, yeah,
right.
Like, and
right, another human being that has wants, needs, wounds, hurts. Right. It's not just this level of your truth is different than my truth, and this is where we meet. The thing I found, again, I'm a little older than you, so I could talk about this. I found after I was Mr. Truth Warrior, for a number of years, everything is truth. I found that if you go the opposite way and start building a relationship where you show people that you love them and there's a level of respect, it makes it much easier when you need to deliver the truth to people. When you have those conversations, because there's a number of people that it's the right opportunity has never yet presented itself to talk about different parts of truth, but I'm not going to stop loving them. There's friends of mine who just it's not the opportunity has never presented itself. And people can argue and say, well, aren't you supposed to make sure that you're telling them? Yes, but I think it's more important that we're loving them first. And if God provides that opportunity for me to speak the truth, then I will. So there's the common ground that I think we're looking for. And I think we overcomplicate it sometimes too, where we're looking for, well, let's get to that. We're all humans. We're all weak. We all have our areas of woundedness. And like I said, I think it's really cool that you take that story from DC and you go, that was great. You really actually probably respected your friends more, loved them more. And in some ways, it doesn't matter what they believe, right? You'd rather you guys were all believing that, but it doesn't affect your friendship with them, right?
Yeah. It's good. It's good.
So anyway, thank you for being here. Really appreciate it. Thanks for taking the time. Hopefully you guys have gotten something out of this, and hopefully we'll have Andrew back here at another point. So hopefully we'll get to see him again. If you have the opportunity, please like, subscribe, share, and comment on the channel. Definitely leave comments. And if there's some things you think we're off base on, you want to hear more of, you don't want to hear any more of, please let us know. But thanks for watching.